So the first intermediate period lasted not that long. It was around 150 to 200 years. And then the first question we have to ask ourselves was, why do we know something at all about the first intermediate period? Because from this period, we have almost no preserved archaeological findings. And there is one main reason, because in the Middle and the New Kingdom, in many reports that we find from that time, the first intermediate period was represented as an era of disaster and despair. And why was that? And the reason for that is that this relates back to this principle of Maat, the principle of order and justice in the Egyptian country. And the Egyptians believed that without a king, without an Egyptian king ruling over the whole country, this would be Amarna. And Amarna means chaos. And chaos means that there's no Maat anymore. There's no order anymore. So in the later perception, the first intermediate period was always a time where there was chaos, where there was no Maat, no order, because there was no Egyptian king. And because there was no unified Egypt. And we also see that Egypt, when it went down, that the old kingdom split into many local kingdoms which were constantly fighting each other because all of them wanted to regain power of the whole country, but none of them could. And in this way, Egypt remained in a chaotic state. And then here we have 3 dynasties. We have the 9th and the 10th dynasty in Heracleopolis, mainly ruling about Lower Egypt, so the Nile Delta. And then we have an Upper Egypt, the 11th dynasty, and the kings of the 11th dynasty came from Thebes. Thebes was in the southern region. It was the most powerful city-state, and therefore it could rule over this Upper Egypt, and then there were these 2 main enemies fighting each other. So because the 11th dynasty ruled over the all of Upper Egypt, this led to the rise of Thebes to the most powerful of all Egyptian city-states. And this is maybe a little bit more detailed, but in general one can say that this person here, Antifi of Hafed, he was from Lower Egypt. He tried to take down Upper Egypt, so Thebes, but Thebes was stronger than him, and they defeated. They defeated this person. They defeated Lower Egypt, and Thebes conquered Lower Egypt, and in this way, the country was unified again from Thebes. And this is why Thebes became from Thebes all the kings of the Middle Kingdom come, and this is also the reason why Thebes became the new capital city, and Thebes was the most powerful city-state. Okay, so this is about the first intermediate period, and to understand history a little bit more, we also need to take a look at foreign affairs, so at other countries. So this was Egypt now in the first intermediate period, and what about the other countries in the time of the Old Kingdom and the first intermediate period? First, we can take a look at Mesopotamia. The history of Mesopotamia begins around 2350 BC with the Akkadian Empire, and founder was Sargon I, but it didn't remain really long. It went down as the Gutians. The Gutians are people from the north, where the mountains are. They invaded this Akkadian Empire, but they never established a state there. So the Akkadian Empire broke down, the Gutians came, but the Gutians just lived there. They didn't establish a kingdom there. And then after the Gutians, there came the Ur-III dynasty. The Ur-III dynasty, this was around 100 years, from 2100 to 2000 BC. And Ur-III was the most powerful existing city-state for around 100 years, but it also went down quickly, and then beginning from 2000 BC, for more than 200 years, there were again local kingdoms and political decentralization. And then after that, there was the Old Babylonian Empire. You can see that here, the Old Babylonian Empire, and the founder of that was Hammurabi. And Hammurabi is also well known because of the Codex Hammurabi, which is the first written law of the world. But this Old Babylonian Empire only lasted about 40 to 50 years. Around 1750 BC, so after Hammurabi died, it just broke down again because there was no good leader after Hammurabi that could hold this unified Old Babylonian Empire. And then knowing that background information, we need to talk about the Hurrians. In the Bible, they're also referred to as the Horites. They're the same people. And then the Hurrians, so we talk about all these big kingdoms, the Babylonians, Ur-3, the Akkadian Empire, but the Hurrians are people that are often forgotten, but they play a very important role in the Middle East history. So who are the Hurrians? The Hurrians are people strongly influenced by the Sumerian Akkadian culture from 2300 BC, and they play an important role when spreading this culture to Syria, to Minor Asia, and lastly to Egypt. And they're also Semites, and they mix themselves with groups of Indo-Germanic descent. This information will become important also later. And then, what was the history of the Hurrians? Around 2300, they went under the rule of the Akkadian Empire. And then after the Akkadian Empire broke down, because the Gushans came, so here you can see the Gushans invading in brown, invading the Akkadian Empire. Then the Akkadian Empire broke down, but because the Gushans never established an own state, the Hurrians now decided to make a state of themselves. So they established the first Hurrian state after the collapse of the Akkadian Empire. But then again, the Ur-3 dynasty rose. So here, the Ur-3 dynasty rose. Here you can see the Horites, the Hurrian state in green. But then the Ur-3 dynasty came. And this Ur-3 dynasty, around 2100, they conquered the Hurrian state. So this Hurrian state went down very quickly. And the Hurrians now lived under the rule of the Ur-3 dynasty. But then again, the Ur-3 dynasty, as I said, collapsed. And then the Hurrians, again, they had no ruler. And in this time, in the Ur-3 dynasty, the Hurrians thought, okay, we can live under the Ur-3 dynasty because he rules over us, he manages us, and we are secure. But when the Ur-3 dynasty broke down, there was nobody anymore who could give the Hurrians security. And that is why they thought now, because this area here where we have lived is insecure, there's no ruler over us, we also don't want to establish an own state, so they concluded that they needed to move. And then what they did was that they moved to Syria first, and then they moved further to Palestine in order to find a new place to live. And this is why then, for example, Hazor, a city that we also know, was established around 1500, and all the other Canaanite city-states, they were also exactly established by the Hurrians moving to Palestine. So that means when the Israelites went to conquer Canaan, all the city-states were, most of the city-states there were founded by the Hurrians and of Hurrian descent. So they play an important role in history. As I said, they are also known as the Horites. And Genesis 36 reports the Horites living on the mountain of Seir. This is this is east from the Dead Sea.